The Big Whack presents Buffalo on the Rise, sponsored by Dr. Kaplansky Dental Implants. Get new permanent teeth in 24 hours with our exclusive Teeth Now process. Welcome to the television show devoted to local business, Buffalo on the Rise, with your host, Joe Chili. There's an entrepreneurial spirit in Western New York that's putting our area on the cusp of greatness. Each week, Buffalo on the Rise features local business leaders and decision makers who are shaping our future. If it's about local business, we'll talk about it right here, right now, during Buffalo on the Rise.
I'm Joe Chili. On this edition of The Big Whack presents Buffalo on the Rise. Have you been injured and need legal counsel for a personal injury or other situation? The team at Richmond Vona Law can help. Will you make a resolution for the new year to get a vision checkup? Dr. Tom Elmer from Fichte, Endl and Elmer Eyecare is here to help. Then enjoy the homemade taste of one of Western New York's most popular foods, Babcia's Pierogi. Meet co-founder Linda Lund. All on this edition of The Big Whack presents Buffalo on the Rise.
I'm Joe Chili, and you can listen to me mornings on The Big Whack. Joining us today on The Big Whack's Buffalo on the Rise is John Richmond from Richmond Vona. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you here. Now, all your entire life, you've wanted to be an attorney, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that since I was a little boy. That's right.
The funny thing is, I talked to you about this previously. The interesting way that you became an attorney is you were a goalie for playing hockey. And everybody was depending on you, and you said, I want to do something that's similar to that. And that's kind of a weird channel to kind of get into it, though, right?
Yeah, exactly. I don't have any lawyers in my family, but growing up my whole life, I was a hockey goalie, like a lot of kids here in Western New York. And over time, I realized that I really liked the idea of my teammates and people being able to rely on me. I like the idea of being able to operate under pressure and kind of learning what you're made of in those circumstances. So it kind of in a weird way led me to being a lawyer and ultimately opening a firm that's dedicated to helping people.
Now, when you talk about personal injury law firms, I take it that as with attorneys or whatever, there are no two firms are identical. No two firms are the same or whatever the case may be. What should you really look for in a personal injury law firm?
Sure, and you're absolutely right. No two firms are the same, and it's just really, really important that you take the time to select the firm that's right for you. Because at the end of the day, you really only have one shot at being compensated for everything that you've gone through and that you're going to go through. So at the end of the day, again, it's important to take your time and really look at firms and ask yourself, hey, what is their communication styles like? What is their experience like? Do they have experience in this type of case? And what is their reputation like? And you can go online these days and look on Google, look on their website, and really take your time, talk to your friends and family, and involve them in the decision, and ultimately choose the firm that's going to be right for you.
When you talk about attorneys, I kind of liken them to doctors sometimes because, no two attorneys are the same, no two doctors are the same. Just because you're a doctor doesn't mean the fact that you can specialize in everything, right? So when it comes to attorneys, there are attorneys that specialize in certain areas of law.
Exactly, and it's like we always talk about it with doctors. If you have a heart condition, you're not going to go to a podiatrist. And same in our field, if you have a personal injury matter, you want to really make sure you take the time to choose a firm that only does personal injury law. Because in this day and age, there are a lot of different types of personal injury law, but we really live in a niche environment, so you want to focus on a firm that spends all their time, all their energy into becoming sort of, I don't want to say experts, but really understanding what it takes to be in that field and understanding the intricacies of those cases.
And what about when you're looking for a firm? Is it important for that firm to be local? Should you be looking for people that gave their opinion of these firms, or things of this nature? I mean, when you go to restaurants, and I don't like to compare attorneys to restaurants or law firms, but you may look online and say, okay, what kind of reviews do these individuals get? What's important? Somebody to be local, somebody the reviews, what should they look for?
They're both important, and really, it's at the end of the day, reviews are extremely important because you're getting to hear from local people who've had an experience with this firm, and need to see what their experience was like. How did the firm treat them? And not just the attorneys, what were the non-attorneys like? Because that's really, really important. And I do think it's really important to have a local firm for your case, because a local firm will understand all the local players, will sort of understand you, understand the community, and all these factors can really come into play and make a big impact on the ultimate success of your case.
When you're talking about personal injury law, what should you watch out for? I mean, is it unusual for someone to get in an accident and all of a sudden get a call from a law firm and say, hey, look, we want to offer you so much money for this accident? Is that just a TV thing? Is that fictional, or do those things happen?
Well, I hope that doesn't happen, because that's not allowed under the ethical rules.
Really?
But no, you shouldn't be solicited by any attorney. But what I would say is, you really want, when you're thinking about a personal injury law firm, again, get to know that firm. Go to that firm, meet the people, go to different firms, and ultimately make sure you understand your different options, because really no two firms are the same. And make sure it's a firm that if the case had to go to trial, they have real trial lawyers who can really hold those insurance companies accountable at the end of the day.
Now, when you go to a firm, are you interviewed, and do you get interviewed more than once? What's the procedure?
So when you call a personal injury firm after you've been in an accident, you'll first start off with a phone consultation, and then you should expect to be asked to come into the office, or they should offer to come to you in person. You'll then spend some time with the attorney and with the team that's going to be assigned to your case, and that's when you really get to, honestly, you're interviewing the law firm. Of course, a law firm like ours is going to ask you questions to understand the case, understand how this has affected you and your family. But really, at the end of the day, the attorney works for you, the injured person. So you are the one interviewing them, and you should feel free to ask them any questions you like.
And should you, I hate to ask this, go to more than one firm?
100%. We always encourage people, and we say, hey, if you're not comfortable with us, go speak to other law firms. It's just like anything in life. If you're making a really important decision, you want to have your options and ultimately choose who's going to be right for you, because you're going to spend a long time in some cases with these firms. So you want to make sure it's someone who's going to communicate well, and it's someone you trust, and someone who ultimately is going to have your best interest in mind and fight for you all the way.
All right, in our final minute and a half in this segment, what are the most important things to consider? What should people have written down, or what questions should they ask when they get to the firm?
So number one, you want to feel them out. You want to sort of see what the environment is like and see who these people are. Do they seem happy? Do they seem like they want to be at this firm, like they want to help you? But then when you get into like the nitty gritty and asking questions, you want to ask about their experience in your type of case. What are their results like? You want to look into their reputation, and you want to talk about their communication style. Like, how often are they going to talk to you? How are they going to keep you updated? Can they text you? Can they call you? Are they available 24/7? Firms like ours in this day and age really should be available 24/7 to help you anytime you need it, because things pop up, not just between 9 and 5, but at night and at other times. So they need to be available for you 24/7.
That's really important. John Richmond, thank you very much for joining us today. For more information and answers to your questions, contact Richmond Vona by calling 716-500-5678 or go to richmondvona.com. Sponsorship and promotional considerations for the preceding segment provided by the following. I'm Joe Chili. You can listen to me mornings on the Big Weck. Joining us today on the Big Weck's Buffalo on the Rise is Dr. Thomas Elmer from Fichte, Endl and Elmer Eye Associates. How are you doing today?
Doing great, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Nice. You don't really look like a doctor.
That's so
I don't know
funny.
how doctors should look, but you look very,
my dad was an attorney.
Really?
So he said, these docs, they don't dress that good. You got to dress nice.
You
So
look more
believe it
like-
or not,
you
a
look
lot
more
of
like-
my suits are my dad's.
You look more like an attorney.
Yeah.
But
That's
anyway,
why.
when do people traditionally see a change in their eyesight? Is like 40 the magic number?
You wouldn't believe it is so predictable. So if you have excellent distance vision, it is almost exactly 40 to the day, or maybe 41, 42, that you start to need reading glasses. So that's very predictable. And the reason for that is the lens inside the eye ages, almost like a tree trunk. Like if you cut a tree and count how many rings it has, and you know how old the tree is. So our humans are like that too. So the lens starts to get bigger and bigger. So if you have a great distance vision, usually around 40, people notice a change.
What about, does heredity have anything to do with it? If your parents had poorer sight younger in life, could you follow suit?
Correct. So if your mom and dad were both nearsighted, you're most likely to be nearsighted or farsighted or astigmatism even. Those things are hereditary. But if you've had, even let's say you wore glasses from the time you were in the 6th grade or something. My kids are actually right now in the 6th grade. So there are kids in the classroom that have glasses. And those kids typically will have glasses unless we do LASIK, which we do quite a bit of at our practice. People don't want to wear glasses. And we usually do that around age 18 or so or older. But usually at 40, if you have distant glasses, that's when you'll start to need a progressive, like you and I were talking about earlier, start to need a blended bifocal or a progressive bifocal. And then typically at age 60, just about everyone, if not everyone, will start to develop cataracts.
Now, when you start talking about bifocals and
Yes.
blended bifocals, do people still wear glasses with that line in them that have the actual bifocal? And do you see that line when you're looking through the glasses?
So that's a great question. So absolutely, people still do lined bifocals. And the truth is, most people that are used to a lined bifocal, once they're used to that, they kind of like that. They don't traditionally switch to a progressive or a blended bifocal. But most people today, if they're going to start wearing that, when you get to the age, you will go with a blended. And what happens is, over the years, the computers basically, and what we've done and learning out things, we've made it better and better. So the ability to sort of blend it is easier. Most people switch. There is a little bit of a learning curve. I think you and I were talking earlier about it was sort of making a step, and it was kind of hard.
Yeah, he was like counting like a horse.
Yeah, exactly. But eventually you adapt it. And so most people can, but some people can't adapt to it, and then we would go to a line.
Is it a misnomer to think that computers are ruining people's eyes?
Actually, it's not. So, what's happening these days, especially kids, and I worry about it with my own kids being in the 6th grade, a lot of near work actually makes you more likely to be nearsighted. For example, in China, we've known this for years. I mean, they're forcing kids to study. The more near work you do, the more likely you're going to be nearsighted, plus the hereditary stuff we just talked about.
And is it a, like when people come to see you with regard to glasses, is there ever a time when you tell them it's just too soon, you don't need glasses now? I mean, if you start glasses before you really need them, does it make your eye deteriorate faster?
Usually not, okay? So the reason sometimes I won't, if they're young enough and maybe it's just slightly nearsighted, that they don't necessarily need them if it's just a small prescription. So we don't always give it if it's very, very small. For example, I have a slight pair of glasses, even though I'm an eye surgeon, that I use for driving at night. Right now I'm wearing nothing. I can read the newspaper, I can read my charts, I can read the computer fine, but I have a slight distance prescription. But so small, typically wouldn't correct that, and I just wear them for nighttime driving. But if I just have a kid, he's not driving yet, maybe he doesn't need them.
What about sunglasses? Is the sunlight damaging to your eyes? Should kids or should adults generally be wearing sunglasses, and should they be polarized sunglasses or?
Yeah. So, our office, we do it all: cataracts, LASIK, glasses. We do offer glasses, and there's different quality of glasses, like you said, with polarization and things. Sunglasses are definitely a good idea. I've been to Africa 6 times because it turns out I really love what I do, and I'll do it free, and I've been there. And so the incidence of cataracts is much higher because it's closer to the equator, closer to the sun. I just did a lunch and learn before I came here today for the interview, and somebody asked me, what about sunglasses? Does it cut down on the risk of cataracts? And the answer is yes, most likely it does. So yes, it's a good idea to wear sunglasses. It cuts down onto the wind of the surface of the eye, cuts down on cataract formation, but even deeper inside the eye, things like macular degeneration, it can help out with that too.
And how do I know if I need a cataract or if I need cataract surgery?
Good question. So pretty much by the time you're 60, everyone needs or has cataracts, but not everyone needs it, okay? So if you're functioning well, it's not bothering you, we like to say activities of daily living. So if everything's good in life, you're fine, your glasses are working, you don't have any issues, you don't need cataract surgery even though you have them. So by the time you're 60, everyone, right? Even I have a little bit, I'm 54 and I have a little bit of cataract. It's fine as long as you're functioning well. Most commonly, the first thing to go is nighttime driving. So people will say, I'm struggling to drive at night. And you wouldn't believe, I have patients all the time, I'm like, I know they have cataracts and I can see it's significant. It looks to me significant. When I test their vision, they're not seeing that well. I'll say, well, sir, you have cataracts. And he's like, I see perfectly fine. I'm like, you're not having any problems? No. I mean, any problems driving at night? I'm like, oh no, I don't drive at night. I'm like, so there's your answer.
There's your answer.
Like, they're not admitting that they have a problem at all, but they are having a problem. They've even stopped driving at night. But the typical male, right? They don't want to admit, there's nothing wrong with me.
Oh, sure, because I'm not getting older.
I see perfect.
I'm not getting older, yeah. All right, we've got less than a minute left.
Okay.
When's your next lunch and learn, or what did they find out about a lunch and learn?
All right, so for us, our slogan is focused on you. But so what we love for people to do is come learn a little bit before. So we do these lunch and learns. We do it every month. I just came for one. We demonstrate. We show videos, what's a cataract. We talk about the different lens options. We don't have time to do it today. We do lasers. We do special implants. We can even put bifocals in your eyes now. So we do them every month. They can just check our website, www.fichte.com. That's the best place to learn, or certainly call our office.
All right. For information and answers to your questions, contact Fichte, Endl and Elmer Eyecare by calling 1-800-309-2020 or go to fichte.com. Sponsorship and promotional consideration for the preceding segment was brought to you by the following. I'm Joe Chili. You can listen to me mornings on the Big Weck. Joining us today on the Big Weck, Buffalo on the Rise, is Linda Lund from Babcia's Pierogi's. Linda, I know I'm introducing you to the massive TV audience here, but everybody knows what Babcia's Pierogi's are.
They seem to.
Yeah,
yes.
they do. They do seem to. And business is very good. Now, where did the name? Tell me a little bit about the history of Babcia's Pierogi's.
So Babcia's grandmother.
Okay.
Yes, everybody has a Babcia. And, we tossed around the name probably for 2 years before we came up with a name that stuck. And it was as simple as Babcia's Pierogi. And they're my Babcia's recipes. The original dough, the original traditional flavors are all our family recipes. So really the history of it, up until a couple of years ago, I was always a hairdresser. And as a hairdresser, I would make pastries, make cookies, things like that to bring in for my clients. And when I first met my husband, he's German. That's where the name Lund comes from.
Oh, okay,
yes.
okay.
So he couldn't understand why we had to have boring flavors in his mind, meaning cheese, sauerkraut, potato. He thought there had to be something more. So that's how we started coming up with different flavors. So I guess I have to credit George for the success of our business.
I hope George is your husband.
It is.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, just wanted to make sure. Well, I guess the fact that you were making things to bring in, you weren't necessarily making pierogies to bring into your...
No, but then I started to because I had a day spa.
Yeah.
And we would have spa parties and we'd always serve food. So I would make little appetizer-sized pierogis of all the different flavors we make, and I would bring them in and serve them to my clients, and they would kind of give me feedback, critique them, tell me what they liked, what they didn't, and it started growing from there. So we would get our friends and neighbors together. I'd make maybe 7 or 8 flavors. We'd have a big party, make a mess all over the house. Everybody would take a few dozen home, and then they would, again, give me feedback, tell me what they liked, what they didn't like, and from there, the rest is history.
Okay, now wait a second. Everybody's going to take a few dozen home. How many pierogies did you make for this party?
For the party, about 1,000 or so.
1,000 pierogies?
Yes.
How long does it take to make it? Were you doing this in your house?
In our house.
How long does it take to...
It takes longer to clean up the flour after.
Really?
Yes.
All right. Now I want you to do something for me once again. I want you to say the word pierogi because you say it the proper way. I can't say it that way, but can you say it again for me?
Pierogi.
Pierogi.
Yes.
See? Now, realize this. At home, make sure that you know. It's
Babcia's Pierogi.
pierogi. I can say Babcia, okay? Anyway, let's talk about what makes Babcia's Pierogi's unique. Is it just the flour? Is it just the flavor? Is it just the ingredients?
I think what really makes us unique, first of all, we're a mom and pop business.
Okay.
You will always find my husband and I behind the scenes. You will always find us in the kitchen making them, whether it's the filling, whether it's running the machine to actually produce the pierogi. So we're not a big corporation. We are a mom and pop business, but we get a lot of work done. I think the fact that everything we make is from scratch, and everything we do, we try to source everything locally as much as possible. So for example, our sauerkraut pierogi. We have a cabbage grower that we buy all our cabbage from. So we make 8,000 to 9,000 pounds of sauerkraut a year. That's used for our pierogi and for other dishes that we cook. Our potatoes we get from a local farm, Aldinger's Farm, which is right behind our house. We get our sausages locally. So we really try to work with people in the community, but more importantly, we're making everything from scratch. So we're not going to be cutting corners.
Also, I mean, beef on weck pierogies, chicken wing pierogies. What was the one from the fair? Asian
fusion.
Asian fusion pierogies. I mean, some of these things are all Buffalo-centric. I mean, which is great. In our final couple of minutes, tell us how you've continued to succeed as a business in the climate that we have right now.
Well, I think the one thing we learned during COVID was that you couldn't sit around and wait for business to come to you. So we really made a point of going out into the community, serving a niche to the community. But let's be honest, everything shut down about 2 weeks before Easter. So when we're preparing for Easter, we make approximately 350,000 pierogi. So at that point, we sell them in 2 weeks' time at the market.
350,000 in 2 weeks' time at the Broadway market.
It's insane.
And your factory itself is at the Broadway market, right?
Yes, and it's really a production room. So it's not a factory, it's a production room. It's a small space.
You likened it to when Lucy and Ethel do the chocolates coming down the conveyor belt.
Yes.
All right, well, we have about a minute left. What does the future of Babcia's Pierogies look like?
So we're very excited that we are going to be opening a second location in East Aurora. Hopefully around the first of the year. So we're looking to expand into the South towns, just so that we are able to hire more people at the Broadway market, hire more people out in East Aurora. So it has a nice trickle-down effect where we'll be able to impact both, bringing more business again and more variety to the Broadway market, which is what we would love to do, but also branching out a little bit.
Trickle-down pierogies. I kind of like it.
It could be a new flavor.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Linda. For more information and answers to your questions, contact Babcia's Pierogi by calling 716-436-3894 or go to babciaspierogi.com. Sponsorship and promotional considerations for the preceding segment was provided by the following.
Thanks for watching this edition of the Big Wack Presents Buffalo on the Rise. For information on this and other shows, go to our website, bigwack.com, and find out how you can participate on the program if you're a hometown business. I'm Joe Chili. Thanks for watching and listening to the Big Wack, Buffalo's oldie station.
The Big Wack Presents Buffalo on the Rise was sponsored by Dr. Kaplansky Dental Implants. Get new permanent teeth in 24 hours with our exclusive Teeth Now process.